Hello, everybody. Welcome to the August edition of Insights. I am Jason Griffing, your host and director of product here at OneVision Resources. I am very excited today to be joined by Daryl Friedman, the CEO of CEDIA. Daryl, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. CEDIA, the exposition, CEDIA, the trade show, is right around the corner, of course, September 1st through the 4th here in my hometown of Denver. And as a longtime industry guy, it's always one of my favorite times of year. So as we're coming down the home stretch of 2026, really excited to meet up with everybody and convene at the event and get a good dose of that trade show energy that I know all of us love. So Daryl's going to share a lot of great information with us today about what we can look forward to at the show. Our conversation is also going to explore what CEDIA has going on as a trade organization, right? So it's not all about the show. We're going to talk about some of the areas that CEDIA has been really focused on, including lobbying and advocacy, outreach to the design build community, and industry research and benchmarking, amongst other things. So again, Daryl, happy to have you here, and we'll jump in here very shortly to the meat and potatoes. But again, really quickly, just want to recap kind of some of the high level points that we're going to be touching on today. So, talking about lobbying and advocacy, what could like official occupational recognition mean for the industry? This is one of the big things CEDIA is pushing for. How CEDIA's new design build outreach is going to work to connect integrators with architects and designers, what CEDIA's research division is measuring and how that methodology, what the methodology is behind it. And I'd say most importantly, how that data can help us as an industry, and then what's changing on the education side, specifically at CEDIA Expo this year. So these are just some of the things we're going to touch on, and really looking forward to jumping into the conversation. So, Daryl, as we get started here, like I mentioned at the top, CEDIA Expo is right around the corner. And what would you say the integrators should be most excited about this year going into the show?
Well, it's going to be a great show. And as always, I'm looking forward to heading out to Denver. I think, for me, this might be a little bit biased, but I think the education conference is the best we've had. It's brand new, it's refreshed, 25 new instructors, really topical things that will help integrators. I mean, when we're putting this conference together, and we have a new conference director, Evan West, who joined us about a year ago, and he's been working on this for about a year, and really thinking from the lens of how do the integrators make more money? Really, it's about, are you leaving money on the table? There are all these sectors, power management, even lighting to some degree, people are still getting into cybersecurity, networking. All these things are opportunities for the integrator to go beyond what they normally sell. And we're going to train them on all of these things, have some thought leadership. Some of our technical people will be there. So we have a new recommended practice on audio measurement, RP32. So it's really just going to be a really invigorating conference, and I'm just really proud of what the team has put together.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually a good opportunity here. I'm going to launch a poll for everyone who's with us live today. So the poll is going to come up, and if you could take just a second to respond to that, it'd be appreciated. So what's your number one reason for going to CEDIA Expo? While that's coming in, Daryl, I'd love your perspective on like where education, fits in. Like when you're out there talking to integrators, I know when I'm out talking to integrators about CEDIA, education's a big component of it. There's obviously other benefits, the new products, networking with peers, catching up with old friends. How important do you, as the CEO of CEDIA, feel like a great education track is to making this a successful event?
Well, education is one of our three pillars, advocacy, connection, and education. When we're talking about CEDIA Expo, and I do want to differentiate because there's CEDIA Expo, which is the trade show, and there's
Yeah.
CEDIA, the association, and really education permeates through both of those. So since you're talking about the trade show, CEDIA Expo, I wanted to mention that this is a key component for so many people. When business owners bring their teams, what they really want for them is to have some time on the floor, but also be trained. So it becomes a key component of the show floor. But it really is part of the DNA of CEDIA, the association, throughout the year. So education really has become the priority for us, and we're going to be unveiling a whole new education model in a couple of months here, which you'll hear about. But I just can't overstress the importance of this industry having the training that they need. And really, CEDIA is the only organization that's doing this kind of training in a brand agnostic way. So it's the fundamentals, it's foundational training, it's advanced training, but it's not product specific. So it really augments and adds a lot of value to employers in addition to what the manufacturers are doing, of course, the very important training they do.
Hmm. And I'm wondering if you could share anything, even at a high level, because you may not be involved in this like day to day, but what is sort of CEDIA's high level process for kind of like vetting and ensuring that the education is in line with what the members need? Again, I know we're kind of talking about education broadly, right? And that can apply both at
Mhm.
Expo and from the organization as a whole. But just talk about like your guys' approach and your stance as the CEO on just making sure that you're not just putting out education just to check the box, but that you're putting out education that really delivers like meaningful value to your members.
Right. Well, I can answer that question in one word: volunteers. I mean, it's really not the CEDIA. The CEDIA team organizes everything and produces these things, but the input on what to be teaching and what is important to the integrator is based on the integrator. They tell us that we have an incredible crew of volunteers who give so much time to CEDIA to advance our education, and they tell us what's on the minds of the integrator. And also what's coming. So maybe things that aren't on the minds of integrators today, but they should be aware of. They kind of have their antennas out there to see what's on the horizon. So really, that's how we vet it. It's really coming from the community itself through our dedicated volunteers.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. I'm going to close this poll out. We'll talk about it here. By the way, I realized I didn't mention at the top. If anyone, for anyone who's here with us live today, feel free to drop any questions, comments, feedback into the live chat as we go. We'll be happy to field those questions if anyone has them. From the poll results, it looks like actually our number one response was FaceTime with existing vendors and partners. So I've been on both sides of the fence, right? I was an integrator for about a decade. I'm coming up on a decade now on the vendor side. And I know the importance of that firsthand, right? Of being at the show and getting to put, see people, I like to say in three dimensions, right? A lot of us spend a lot of
Yeah,
time on Slack and seeing everybody from kind of here up. And I sort of joke that it's nice to see people in three dimensions. Um, what's your
so
belief on
true.
the importance of this, and what can you share about like vendor participation? So for integrators out there who really value, taking some time out of the business, dealing with travel, time away from family and everything to come to the show, if that vendor engagement is one of the most important things to them, what can you share about like vendor participation this year, and what is CEDIA doing with their part? I know Emerald runs a lot of this, right? But like
Mhm.
from what you guys are directly involved with at CEDIA, what are you guys doing to ensure healthy vendor participation at the event?
Yeah, well, this you've raised sort of the second pillar of our three pillars, which is connection. And there's just no other way to do that than by being there in person. I mean, it really is. If you're on a Zoom call with a manufacturer, they're going to tell you the information, but it's that social aspect, it's that relationship building that can only happen in the flesh. So we think that's important too. And of course, that's the main reason someone will go to a trade show is for that kind of in-person interaction. So the show floor is looking good. As you said, Emerald Expositions is the owner of CEDIA Expo, and they actually do all the vendor relations. But I was looking at the show floor the other day, and it looks like it's going to be really vital and full, and one resource is in there, and I'm glad to see that. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. But again, I can't stress enough the importance of being there, having that social time, having that interaction that goes maybe outside of the product discussions, just sort of those relationship building things. I mean, this year
Hmm.
we're doing at the end of Friday because it's going to at the beginning of the holiday weekend. So people are going to be kind of looking for fun. We're doing a pub crawl. As soon as the floor closes, we're out on the street and going hitting bars together and just having that camaraderie that's so important for the CEDIA community. I mean, this is a community and they want to be together and not just to see the booths, but also just to spend time socially. So yeah, you're right. It's a hugely important part of CEDIA Expo and CEDIA's
Yeah,
mission.
yeah. And as a vendor, I'll be still on the show floor cleaning up and breaking down
Tearing
my
down your
booth,
boot.
so I will
Yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah.
miss the pub crawl. But I think it's a
Well,
great
you'll miss the
idea.
first couple of stops. We'll
Yeah.
we'll save it. We'll save a stool
And
for you.
I'd love to hear you riff on it a little more. I think that's a new thing. I don't think CEDIA has ever done that before. And so, again, the core idea is kind of like celebratory, right? But it's about building that community and connection. So basically, what this starts, you said, right when the show floor ends, and then you'll be out like hitting just a bunch of bars around downtown Denver.
Yeah, and I think what's happening is because it's the beginning of the holiday weekend, people have brought friends and family to Denver and are going to spend the weekend there. It's a great town that most people would never see because you just go to the show and then you leave. And now we have this opportunity to kind of celebrate it and have a long weekend. So I think it's going to be really fun to kind of have this group together. And word on the street is I'm buying the first round for members. So
Oh boy, you heard it here
I keep
first.
hearing that. So hopefully my CFO will up that limit on my credit card.
On your
But
credit card,
yeah,
yeah. Well, that's a
but
nice
yeah.
little bonus for everyone who joined us live today. You got the inside track. First rounds on Daryl at the pub crawl.
If you mention
Yeah,
this
mention the
podcast,
Insights podcast. First
Insights
rounds on
podcast,
Daryl.
you
There
get
you
your
go. I
first
like
round.
that.
Yeah, but you have to be a member of CEDIA.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of celebratory events, I know CEDIA Awards is a big deal for a lot of folks in the industry and for you guys. I'd love to hear you just talk about that a little bit, where you see that in terms of the hierarchy of importance at the event, and what can integrators and vendors look forward to this year at the awards.
Yeah, this is one of those things I'm just so proud of the team and how it's grown. And in the 5+ years that I've been CEO of CEDIA, the first year was very different than last year's awards, and it's just grown in popularity. It's now a sold out event, but it's also grown in the sense of the importance of these awards. CEDIA, as the industry body, having these honors really means something much more than it did 5 years ago or earlier. And what we're doing now, we'll talk, I know, a little bit later about our new design build department and how our outreach to architects, designers, and builders is improving. But part of what we're really doing with these awards is getting that into the design and build community. And we do a lookbook for them. They love to have beautiful coffee table books in their showrooms, and we're showing them how design and integration can go so beautifully hand in hand. So now when you get this award, you don't just win this prestigious award and have that on your in your showroom lobby, but you also have that outreach to this whole architect and design community that's going to know about this incredible work, the award-winning work that you're doing. So yeah, if you can still grab I think there's some seats available. It's on the expo registration site, cediaexpo.com. But it's really become just a very dignified and fun and meaningful event.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great event. As the CEO of CEDIA, we're what, just like, I don't know, three weeks out or so from the event. I mean, how
18
are you feeling about
days.
things? You guys must be busy. What's the final run up to an event like this like for you, and how are you guys feeling about the event this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the busiest times of year. Every thing from the scripting of the awards to booking filling last minute slots, to continuing to promote it to make sure people know everything that's new that's happening so they don't miss it. Promoting our keynote, Duncan Wardle from Disney, who's going to talk about creativity and how integrators can use that in their day-to-day lives. So it really is every day is pretty full these days, and all the other events that go on around it. We have meetings and breakfasts and dinners and parties and all sorts of things that happen. So it's an exciting time. It reminds me of Grammy week in my old job. It's just like that week is just so intense. Everything gets packed in. But I'm looking forward to really a great show.
Yeah, yeah. We've done a couple of real small events, very small compared to CEDIA at OneVision. So we've had some experience with that. And then prior to me becoming an integrator, 20 or so years ago, I did some work in live audio video. And so I know that there's like just a million details under the hood that a lot of people, if you're not involved in planning the event, just wouldn't occur to you. So I'm sure you guys are busy and scrambling. And then yeah, and then you get to the event and hopefully everything goes great. And then at the end, it's just a nice feeling of accomplishment. So
Exhale,
I'm
yeah.
sure you
And we
guys
don't want people to know what's under, like we don't want people to
you
feel
want
any
to
of
make
it.
it look smooth and
We want
seamless.
them to just have an incredible experience from
Exactly.
start to finish. Let us do all that, work, and hopefully the seams don't show. And you guys, everybody who attends, just has an amazing time.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, planning shows, we here on the Insight podcast on our last episode had the folks on from Avixa, ProSource, HTSA talking about the new upcoming Reside trade show, which, want to address that, right? Because that does look
Yeah.
competitive to CEDIA. So I think it would be good to get your perspectives on, what's your take on Reside, and what do you think makes CEDIA uniquely valuable to residential integrators in particular, given this new kind of competitive show that's coming onto the scene?
Yeah, well, we'll see how it unfolds. I said when it launched, I think I said publicly, it feels like a little bit of a square peg in a round hole. I love InfoComm. I go every year because Avixa is our partner with ISE. and we have great relationships with them. They bill themselves as the world's most vital pro AV show, and that's what it is. So I do think CEDIA Expo just has that value of being the residential show, and it's not a small piece of a larger show. It's really the relevant piece for most integrators. I I know the founding of CEDIA was really about kind of being lost in a big show. I actually called a couple of the founders of CEDIA and just like, tell me the story again, the origin story. And part of it was that the residential integrator just was not getting any love at CES. And so they said, we're going to do a show for ourselves. And out of that, CEDIA Expo was born. So it's kind of impressive to see that. And I think when I've talked to integrators, they still want that. They still want that show that's dedicated for them as opposed to being a small piece of a larger show that's largely not relevant to them. In fact, even Avixa says that over 90% of their attendees are not doing any residential work. So I think if you're in the residential business, if you're doing Pro AV, InfoComm is the place to be. Absolutely great show, and I would encourage anybody who's on that commercial side to go there. But if your focus is residential technology or light commercial, CEDIA Expo is the only show in North America that's dedicated to residential integration.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, as somebody who is like neutral, kind of looking at all the different options, like I buy the argument as a product guy as well. Like you have a product, right? You could think of the CEDIA trade show as a product, and like it's optimized for a certain type of customer. Infocom's optimized for a certain type of customer. So yeah, I buy what you're saying, and I think that CEDIA just continuing to stay focused on like how can you guys as an organization and as a trade show just continue to provide the maximum amount of value to that integrator, particularly one who's maybe 100% focused on residential. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the place to go to. I always say that's where my people are, right? This is like the residential integrator is very different than sort of an enterprise IT guy. And so they want to be, the integrators I've talked to, they want to be at a place where it's their people. And that's what CEDIA Expo is.
Got it. Well, I'd love to shift gears. We've spent so far just talking about the upcoming trade show, but as you pointed out early on, CEDIA, there's CEDIA the trade show and there's CEDIA the organization. Those two sometimes get conflated. They're obviously related, right? But separate things. So let's shift gears and talk about CEDIA as an organization and some of the key initiatives that you guys have going on, starting with advocacy and lobbying. This, I know, Daryl, from getting to know you in recent months, is a big topic for you, right? It's near and dear to your heart. So talk about what you guys are doing on the advocacy front, and why it matters, why integrators should be paying attention and should be excited about the work going on there.
Yeah, well, I'll focus on what we're doing in the US. And we're actually doing advocacy work globally, but in the US, it's critically important for a couple of reasons. One is that, and this blows people's minds when I say this, but it is true. The integration occupation is not recognized by the United States government. It just doesn't exist. So when you have to put in an occupation code for insurance or for anything else, you're an electrician or a telephone repair person or something like that. So it should not be that way. And the US looks at this every 10 years, and this is our moment. So a few years ago, and it's a long process. They started it a few years ago. It won't be till 2028. But we have filed, I think, a very compelling argument why technology integrators should be a recognized occupation. And we have joining with us on that, we have other commercial and security associations who agree to be part of that and help us just show the numbers. And so when that happens, that'll open up a whole sort of credibility for this industry. You might find your insurance rates go down because you're not dealing with line voltage. It's very different to deal with low voltage, limited energy. So you will find the apprenticeships and workforce is much different when there's an awareness to it. You'll find technical colleges much more open to training our curriculum when there's an awareness and the stamp of approval from the government. So that piece is important. We do a lobby day every year. We go to Washington and now coming up in the fourth year for this. And last year we went to the Department of Labor, had some great meetings at that with those folks from the government, and they're interested in recognizing an apprenticeship for our channel, actually a smart home, it's residential systems apprenticeship. So there'd be a pathway for young people to get into this field. It'd be recognized. It'd be a formal process, and integrators who still tell me one of their main challenges is labor would have this whole new influx of people coming in. So other things we've done, we passed legislation, and this year we're going to expand the CEDIA Day on Capitol Hill and include any of our members who want to come. It's been sort of invite only, but this year we're doing it with a much broader audience. We're also partnering with buying groups like Nationwide ASEAN and Oasis to get their members to come and just make this a real movement for our industry.
Got it. Did I hear you correctly that like essentially if we as an industry miss this window, then it's another 10 years before it
So
could
another
even
10 years.
theoretically happen again?
Yeah.
Wow. That's,
So it's
I mean, I guess I
that's why it's
shouldn't
so
be shocked.
important.
That's government, but that's good to
It's every
know. I
10
didn't
years and it
realize
takes
that.
5 years to do it. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way the government works. But
Well,
at
that's
Department
interesting
of
to
Labor,
know.
we did talk about that as well, and we have some great contacts there now to help us make sure we get this through.
Got it. How optimistic are you?
99%.
99%. Good.
Yeah, just based on some of the feedback we've gotten from labor. Also, we have some congressional friends pushing from that side, even though that's executive branch play. It
Yeah.
helps to have some Congress friends in Congress. So yeah, I feel good about it. I think that's going to happen.
Well, I
It'll
think
be
it's good. I
historic
mean,
for our
this,
industry.
yeah, yeah, and this is the kind of thing that like CEDIA as an organization can bring economies of scale and expertise to that like, integrators aren't, it's hard to imagine individual integrators just sort of banding up and getting something like this done without this overarching organization that CEDIA can bring to it. And I have to say, like, for me, it always felt um it always felt important, but like in a very abstract sense, like, oh yeah, that would be good to get the recognition. But it wasn't until I sort of heard you lay out some of those really concrete benefits, like lower insurance rates, recognition at trade schools that can help us address, the labor shortage. Things like this are really meaningful to integrators out there. And so I think like, you know, promoting that awareness and helping the industry really understand why leaning in and helping with this in whatever way they can is beneficial for everybody. What does it actually look like if I'm an integrator and I'm listening to this and I want to get involved? What's the process for me? Kind of getting more information, showing up on this day. What does that actually look like? Like, talk me through that.
Yeah, well, the best way to do that, we're going to be launching sort of the movement at CEDIA Expo at the Smart Stage on Friday morning. Andy Rusko from Nationwide Buying Group will join me, as well as some others from involved in government relations at CEDIA. And we're going to announce at that point any member of CEDIA who wants to come to Washington will have a process to just submit their information, really, so we can place them, so we know where their
Yeah.
workplace is, where their home is. We can place them with the right member of Congress. But really, until you do it yourself, no, like you said about it being abstract, it's so true, because when people come to Washington with us for the first time, there's no way to explain it other than doing it. Like when you're sitting
Hmm.
down with your US senator or US representative and you're telling them about this residential integration industry, and they're listening and they're saying, "Oh, I didn't know that. How can we help?" There's nothing quite like walking the halls. So I encourage anyone who's interested in taking a trip to DC in March of 27, come join us.
Man, you got me interested now. No, that sounds really cool. Like, not only is it super helpful and important for the industry, but just like what a cool and interesting experience it would be for somebody like myself. I've never had any exposure to what that looks like in person. So it'd just be a cool experience. So yeah, I would, for what it's worth, encourage anybody listening who has any interest in that to definitely follow up. Shifting gears, you're also, I know, big, Daryl, on the outreach to the design build community. I think you said there's a new department dedicated to this. Talk a little bit about what CEDIA has going on in terms of helping the integration industry raise its sort of visibility and reputation amongst that really critical cohort of folks in the design and build community.
Absolutely. This really started with a partnership with the NKBA, which is another association that their membership are all designers. And we did some joint research with them, found, confirm what we probably know instinctively, which is that there's a very little awareness of the integration industry to designers and architects. And when they do have an awareness of it, their perception is completely incorrect. Their perception is it's going to make my design look ugly. It's going to cut into my margin, all things that are basically myths. So we thought we need to respond to this and to dispel those myths and to make that partnership really solid. And so we built a new department at CEDIA, Design and Build Outreach, hired a designer who actually knows our world, but she really is a designer first, Andrea Harvey, to come lead that department. She's already got a second in command. And what they are going to be doing is connecting our members to designers and architects and builders in their communities. And the importance of that can't be overstated. Integration companies have built their entire businesses on these relationships when it's done right. And we want to make sure that scales. We want to make sure that the next time we do research with the Design Association, they're going to tell us the awareness is much higher and that partnership is valued and seen as something that they want to get into, as opposed to right now, all these misperceptions and misconceptions about it.
Hmm. And where's that initiative at? Like, is it still new, nascent? Is there active outreach happening? Like, give me a sense for the day-to-day work that these folks are doing to really push this forward. Because I agree with you. I think it is critical. Again, I've sat on both sides of the fence in terms of being an integrator and a vendor, and those relationships with designers, builders, architects in local communities are really the lifeblood of most integration companies, and that's not an exaggeration. So I'd love to hear just a little bit more detail about like what does that outreach actually look like, and how are they
Yeah.
engaging with the community in order to push the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, it is a new department, but if anyone who's met Andrea will know that there's no such thing as starting slow. I mean, she's out of the gate, just like she's everywhere. First of all, at KBiz, at High Point, at anywhere designers are, she's going to be there singing the virtues of being an evangelist for our industry. But we're about to launch a new product for designers that basically tells them it's a website product that actually shows them they can go into any room and kind of click on the invisible technologies and see what it can do for their clients. That's going to be promoted at CEDIA Expo as part of our after our awards. Getting that smart home guide, that the smart home style guide that I talked about with the award winners, getting that out to far more designers and architects, and working with the other associations too. So, we have lunch with the Builders Association coming up. We've got meetings with NKBA and AIA and all these associations that themselves have thousands of members in those fields, and they can help us amplify her voice. So out of the gate, she's doing a great job, and I think we're going to see incredible value for CEDIA members to have that connective tissue with the architect and designer.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. One other big area that CEDIA I know is digging into that I believe is sorely needed for the industry is research. We're really kind of hurting for definitive data, benchmarking data, understanding about things like industry size and scope. And I know this is another big area that you've been helping to steer the organization into. So give us an overview, a kind of thumbnail sketch of what's going on the research front at CEDIA.
Right. And, CEDIA had been doing research. It's never had its own sort of dedicated staff at CEDIA, and it's also had been in the past every other year. And, we're part of when I came here at CEDIA is let's make this a real industry. Let's make this the professionalism that every other, trade association industry has. And one of those things is good data, good research. So we've been stepping that up into doing annual research, but now we have a dedicated department, a new director, a research expert who's Ryan Bardash, who's just doing this. This is his job, it's his expertise, it's his background. And we're going to be unveiling the first, I think, the most credible research CEDIA has ever unveiled at CEDIA Expo during a town hall on Tuesday, the afternoon before the show opens, the floor opens. And that'll be size and scope. That'll be sectors, what's growing, projections on where the industry is going, what sectors people should get into, have labor issues happening. But in time, I think this can really grow beyond size and scope of the industry and those kind of factors. And we can do research specific to a sector. We can do research specific to a manufacturer. We can really create bespoke research now. We have a dedicated department with an individual there who's really knowledgeable about this and really has the background and expertise. So come to CEDIA Expo if you're coming. Come to the CEDIA Town Hall Tuesday afternoon. You'll be the first to hear the new research,
Yeah.
the results of our data collection.
If there's somebody listening who's like, okay, sounds important. I get it. Kind of, again, in that abstract sense, maybe they understand data is important, but like, what are some of the concrete benefits that you see good data like this delivering? And I'd love to hear you address that on both sides, the vendor and the integrator side.
Yeah, it's interesting because the vendor has always valued this research. Sometimes they call and say, "When's it coming out? Is it coming out soon? Yeah, it's coming out in a week, whatever." The vendors want to know that because they want to know their market share. They want to know how their competition's doing. I don't believe we've done a good job of conveying to the integrator how important this is for their business. When they open up that research, they're going to see how their competition's doing. They're going to see what the current coming trends are. They're going to see whether their competition believes the market is they're bullish or bearish on the future. And so all those things really matter to an integrator. I think we're going to try and do a much better job of conveying that to the because we've always seen this as sort of a vendor benefit that they get this research, but really, this is something that we sell for $2,000 and any CEDIA member gets it for free. So I really want the integrators to understand if you want to know where you sit in relationship to your competition, this is the document you want to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, having that frame of reference. I mean, a really concrete example, I think you guys are going to have wage data.
Mhm.
Did I hear that correctly? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one concrete example, but there's a bunch of those, I'm sure. I'd love to hear a little about the methodology. So, like when somebody's looking at this data, you know, the trained eye is always going to ask, well, okay, what is the methodology? How much stock can I put in this data? How was it gathered? What's sample sizes? These sorts of things. So, can you give us an overview of what the methodology was in order to get this data put together?
Yeah, it's been great. And having Ryan here because he has that background and he also has selected a new outside firm to kind of help us, a data research firm to help us with that. So I think it's much more credible. So there are a couple of different aspects to it. One is survey. And Ryan was charged this year to increase our participation of that survey. I think we tripled the number of responses we got this year. So he's done a good job with that. The other is conversations, so sort of qualitative data. We have conversations with different vendors, different to see how their dealers are doing, to see what trends, what growth areas they've had. And the third is we ingest data from other organizations that have that data, like Portal and D-Tools. So they've been very helpful in kind of helping us round out with some of their data. So when you have this kind of 360 approach to research, you get very credible results. And on top of that, with having Ryan and his expertise, having the new research firm, I think it's going to be beyond reproach. It's going to be very credible data.
Got it. Well, I will look forward to hearing more. I know we don't get a sneak preview today, other than just knowing that this is where it's going to be unveiled, and you got to be there if you want that inside track. So you said Tuesday
Yeah, Tuesday
afternoon.
afternoon at 5:30 in Denver, and it's the evening before the show floor opens, and
Okay,
we'll get you out of
very
there and
good.
get a good night's sleep before the keynote the next morning with Duncan
Yes,
Ward.
exactly, exactly. I did want to touch on here one more topic as we're coming down the home stretch is your upcoming retirement. So this has been announced. There's no fixed date in place yet. I know you're personally very committed to making sure that CEDIA has a smooth transition and you're going to hang around through the duration of that transition. But talk to me about the why behind your retirement, and what do you see as the things that you can really focus on to make sure that it's smooth and that CEDIA is set up for success as you move on to the next chapter.
Yeah, this is a tough one to talk about. It's bittersweet for me. If I go, I'll go off camera here in a second. If I start to get teary, I
Yeah,
know
did you
this
bring
is
your tissues? Yeah, you make sure you get them.
this has been. I mean, it's been an honor to be in this position. I always say to my wife, I wish I'd gotten this job 10 years earlier in my career because I just would have had more runway. But it is an all-consuming position and a lot of international travel, and it's kind of like a 24/7 gig. So you get to a point after almost 40 years of being in the workforce that you have to know when your energy level can't do justice to the requirements. And I think I kind of hit that point. So I let the board know in April and told them this is going to be the first orderly succession in CEDA's history. I'm going to stay as long as needed, and you guys do a great search and find somebody amazing to take my place. So the plan is for me, again, there's no end date. We're probably thinking sometime early next year, but the search committee is already meeting and starting that process. I think by Expo, we'll have an open position, and anyone who's interested and wants to recommend somebody can send that name in to the firm we're using. Vetted Solutions is a very specific Washington D based association based firm. They're actually the ones that found me, and they are going to do a great job for the search committee and the board. So yeah, it's going to be a very easy and smooth transition. I hope to have a good few weeks of maybe months of onboarding, depending on what the person wants. So I'll stay around as long as I'm useful to him or her, and I will leave when I become not useful to him or her. But we definitely want to make sure that this transition is a seamless one, and I think it'll be
Yeah.
great for the next person. It's an amazing position, and I think the next person can do great things, and there's so much potential for CEDIA to grow, and the foundation that we've set, I think, will be a great launching pad for them.
Yeah. What's your plan personally? Do you have a concrete plan for the next chapter, or is it mostly just, kicking your feet up and enjoying the fruits of 40 years of labor?
Yeah, I think the first 6 months, I'm not really trying to have a concrete plan. I just want to kind of slow down,
Yeah.
catch my breath. Everybody always says when they retire, they want to travel. I always say when I retire, I don't. I want to stop traveling because the
You
travel's
don't want to
been
travel. Yeah.
exhausting. So I'll probably just kind of stay home and enjoy my integration here in my house and play with a few new scenes, and listen to some multi-room audio and to do all the
Yeah.
things that I don't have time to do now. So
Yeah.
it'll be a nice, relaxing shift for me. And maybe after 6 months, I'll, get more concrete plans. But my main plan right now is to ensure a smooth transition and to make sure I set up my successor for success.
Got it. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. If and obviously this is a very hypothetical situation because this won't be how it plays out, but if you were sitting in front of the person right now who's going to take over the position and you had to give them one piece of advice to make CEDIA successful, what would that be?
Conveying the undisputable value of the association. I still think even after the 5+ years I've been here, and you just done this podcast, like people just conflate CEDIA with the show and they use it interchangeably. And what we've tried to do is explain that value that CEDIA has for this industry is indisputable. And if it went away, it would be terrible for this industry. If we didn't have the advocacy, the connection, the education that CEDIA provides, really independent of the CEDIA Expo. So I think that person needs to kind of carry that forward and make that penetrate more in integrators' minds to understand what CEDIA is doing for you. Really 24/7, the things that CEDIA do. They don't make money. We're a nonprofit. We do it in service to the community. And the more we can get that word out, I would say to him or her, that would be your number one task.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had a few conversations with you, like I alluded to, and I will share with everybody that from my perspective, your commitment to making sure that you're tuned in to what your constituents want and need, and then making sure that the organization is doing everything in its power to convey back to the base, like what's happening, where are we running into challenges, what are we trying to do to advance things, I think has been great for the organization. And, I hope that your successor will come in with that same kind of very, like, again, I'm a product guy, right? So it's all about like, who's the customer and what problems are we solving for them? And I hope that that mentality continues.
I'm sure, well, we have a great board, but very dedicated to making sure this next CEO is going to be serving their industry and serving their community. So I have 100% confidence.
Got it. Well, as we wrap up, I'll put a call out to the audience. If anyone has any questions that maybe are on your mind that we didn't address, go ahead and throw those into the chat here. We've got a few more minutes. While we're waiting to see if any of those do come in, there was one question, Daryl, that came in from the audience via email before the recording. And this is from Ajar at eHome. And he said, how can CEDIA help us with getting better margins on popular equipment? So on the AV side, products like Sonos and Ubiquity come to mind. So these are, of course, products that are popular with integrators, but also sold direct to consumer. So I know this is always a topic of conversation. Is there anything you can share there about what role you see CEDIA playing in addressing that?
Yeah, well, there's a couple paths to answer that question. The first is we are constantly telling the homeowner, use a professional integrator. Yes, some of these things you can do yourself and you can buy them off the shelf, but there's nothing like having a professional install. So part of that is just that education piece that we do. We have a whole campaign geared to the homeowner. But I think there's other tactical things we can do. We're talking to internally about having a vendor program where maybe CEDIA members get discounts to certain products, because why wouldn't a vendor want to do that when you're dealing with a CEDIA member who is committed to the industry, who's trained, who's taking the time to be part of an association? They're going to be a better dealer for you, and maybe it's in your interest to offer them a better price. In that case, there would be an increase in margin. So I think both of those things can be addressed.
Got it. Excellent. Well, it does not look like any other questions have come in. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Daryl, really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule during what I know has to be a very busy time for you. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to everybody who joined us live, thank you as well for taking some time out of your day to be here. We will let you go. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care, everyone.